Jai Hind. My name is Vivek Agarwal. I am the assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering of the AKGEC. Today, we are going to have a session on virtual support and disaster recovery. It's a part of the cloud computing. Basically, virtualization support is provided through some cloud technologies. As we already know, cloud computing is having the capability through which we can enable various virtual environment. We can have various virtual machines which can be utilized by the cloud consumers. So today we are going to emphasize what is disaster recovery process, what are the basic terminologies used in the disaster recovery, and what are the traditional methods of disaster recovery, and how using the cloud virtualization support, we can improvise the things. We can improvise the recovery process, how we can efficiently do the same thing, and what are the key differences in the both approach, the traditional approach and the virtualization approach using the cloud computing technology. So come along. So let us understand what is disaster recovery. Disaster recovery is about preparing for and recovering from a disaster. So there are the three things we need to consider. First is disaster. First, we should understand what is the disaster. Second, the preparation. Yes, the preparation to handle the disaster, and the preparation again for the recovering from the disaster. So first we are going to have a overview of the disaster, what kind of the situations can be considered as a disaster. Second, what are the recovering and the preparing methods from that disaster. So let us understand the disaster. Disaster may be any event that has a negative impact on your business. Continuity of finances could be turned as a disaster. In very generalized meaning, we can consider any event which is impacting negatively the ongoing process, the continuity of the process, the continuity of your business, the continuity of the services, operations, etc., etc. If that is being impacted through an event, that event can be considered as a disaster. For example, like already your business is going on and you are utilizing the service of the network, for example, for let's say network, and if there is any issue in the networking, then the whole process may be shut down or maybe the halted for the moment, for the duration till when the network problem is restored, or the I must say the network services are restored. So the duration, or we can call it like an event which happened through just because of which the ongoing process of the services of the operation impacted negatively, because for that duration no work was happened. In that duration the resources were idle, in the state of the idle. So ultimately this is restricting a natural flow of your services or your, I must say, the operations. So this event can be considered as the disaster. Another disaster could be any physical disaster, like the collapse of the building. There may be any fire condition, there may be the collapse of the machine, there may be a collapse of the server, there may be any component of the server that could be failure. There could be any physical disaster, any natural disaster, any man-made disaster. There could be anything. So ultimately disaster is a scenario, is an event which is impacting the ongoing process. Generally we are talking about the businesses, because most of the time the cloud services, the major clientele of the cloud services are the businesses. In a hefty, they are paying hefty amount for the cloud service providers. So generally the business operations, if it is getting affected, because we are more concerned about the business operations in the case of disaster, because every business is having a number of data, a number of operations are going there, a number of people are going to be affected in the case of any disaster. So now the point is why we are taking so much, why we are talking so much, why we are taking we are bothering about this disaster term. These are the few points you can have a good idea why we are more curious about this disaster thing. Because as per the survey reports, over 70% of the business involved in any major fire either do not reopen or subsequently fail within 3 years of fire. 70% is a very big percentage. 80% of businesses affected by the major incident either never reopened, closed within the 18 months of the disaster. It is provided by the source EXA. So you can see 80%, 70%, 80%, most of the companies 80%. So in the case of any disaster, the on an average more than 75% of the companies are failed to maintain their same pace, maintain their businesses as well. So that's why the disaster, the term disaster or the situation of disaster is very, we need to be very concerned about this. We need to solve this problem uh, in a very efficient manner, in a very cost effective manner, because most of the companies did not taking the measures to handle the disaster just because of the cost involved for managing the disaster, for making a plan for the disaster, for recovering from the disaster. So using the cloud computing things, using the cloud computing solution, this can be done in a very effective way as well as on a very cheaper cost. So let's see. So what is DR? Now we are repeating the same thing. We just go through the disaster. Disaster recovery is from recovering from the disaster. Disaster is happening there. We need to prepare and recover from the disaster. A basic term, a basic definition we can call it. Any event that has a negative impact on a company's business continuity or finances could be termed as the disaster. Disaster is not something only like the stoppage of the finances, stoppage of the operations. It may be the finances due to any reason. If the flow of the finances is going to be affected, that is also can be considered disaster. This include hardware or software failure, a network outage, a power outage, physical damage to a building like fire or flooding, human error, or some other significant event, as already we had gone through. Like it may be any natural disaster or the man-made disaster, maybe any physical disaster, or maybe any other kind of the event. According to the AWS, disaster recovery is a continual process of analysis and improvement as businesses and system evolve. Yes, it's a continuous process, because right now, which is the problem in the market, maybe in coming time or in the future days, the other kind of the problems would be there. So other kind of the challenges would be there. So it's a continuous process to get the updated information about the possible disasters. Come to the next. For each business service, customer need to establish an acceptable recovery point and time, and then build an appropriate DR solution. Yes, there used to be two terms can be called as the RTO and RPO, to which we are going to discuss in next slides. So basically this point is trying to saying recovery point and the recovery time. DR on cloud can significantly, yes, to which we are more concerned, how the disaster recovery using the cloud can significantly reduce cost up to half of the cost, as already I told you, as compared to the company maintaining its own redundant data centers. By default, the traditional approaches generally include the own data centers for the recovery perspectives, for the backing up for the operations or the data things we are going to discuss in next slides. The cost include buying and maintaining the servers and the data centers, providing a secure and stable connectivity and keeping them secure. The servers would also be underutilized. Yes, this is a problem in a traditional approach. So as we discussed in the previous slide, RTO and RPO. Now just need to understand these terms. RTO, the full form is recovery time objective. This is a time, as the name suggests, time. Time means a duration of the time and the service level of which a business process must be restored after a disaster. So this is a time when any disaster happened to any organization, the total time taken by the team to recover from the disaster and making the system as per their natural process. For example, like if there is any power outage in any company at the 3 a.m. and it was restored at the 6 a.m. So there was a 3 hours gap in which the service is restored in a natural form. So this 3 hours duration can be called as the RTO. Let us have another example. Let's see the what is it exactly. Have a system that records 1000 transaction. Another example can be, we are considering another example to understand the RTO. Like there is any system which is recording a transaction 1000 transactions per hour, and at a 3 a.m. every day at a 3 a.m. it is taking the I must say that it is backing up the things. It is taking a snapshot of these transactions. At 10 a.m. a disaster event occurs. Morning in the 10 a.m. you spend 1 hour to sort things out for the backup, offsite preparation, etc. Whatever the process is to recover from that disaster. Disaster may be of any kind. Recovering operation take 4 hours in order to get back to operate at the minimum service level. Minimum service level at which we can consider that we had recovered from the disaster and we can operate at least for a minimum basic service level. We can have some services. So the total recovery time, I must say, is 5 hours. 4 hours for preparation and 1 hour 1 hour for the backing up, and the 4 hours for to back up. Like 3 a.m. and 10 a.m. the total difference between that is 7 hours basically. But 1 hour to sort out the thing, because 3 disaster happened at the 10 a.m. Disaster happened at the 10 a.m. You spend 1 hour to sort things out for the backing. 1 hour you got just to make the plan, make the preparation how you can recover from that, and 4 hours to recover actually implementing the things, and total 5 hours you took after the 10 a.m. from recovering that position. Means at 3 p.m. you would be able to be operating at a minimum service. So that is the 5 hours is the RTO from recovering that disaster. Another term is RPO. RPO stands for the recovery point objectives. Means it describes the acceptable amount of data loss measured in time. Like in that duration, what amount of data is lost. Like if the power outage has happened at the 3 a.m. and it restored at the 5 a.m. So meanwhile 2 hours, the data which is coming to the server but was not able to be backed up or to be stored. So the loss of these 2 hours data, the data in terms of time we can measure, that 2 hours loss of data is called as the RPO, recovery point objective. So these are the two terms which is very crucial while having a data recovery, I must say the disaster recovery plan, because we must be defining these two terms, like up to what RTO and RPO we can accept in making the disaster recovery plan. So to understand the RPO, we are having the again one example, like the same example previously we had done. We have considered there is a system recording 1000 transactions per hour. At 3 a.m. every day it is taking a snapshot. Disaster happened at the 10 a.m. and we lost the 7000 transactions, like from 3 a.m. because the last saved copy was at the 3 a.m. and the disaster happened at the 10 a.m. So from 3 to 7, 3 a.m. to the 10 a.m. the difference is 7 hours. The data of the 7 hour is not stored at the, I must say, the server side. So the loss of is 7000 transaction, like 3 to 1000, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, this etc. So total we have 7 hours 7 hours of RPO in this case. But if we are preparing any planning, which is and our planning is having a capacity is considering a maximum 24,000 transaction loss, then our RPO is okay. We can consider this loss as an okay case. So these are the terminologies, the basic definitions already we had gone through. Already we had discussed. So now we had discussed the disasters and the disaster recovery. So there are these few solutions. I must say the recovery strategies, or I must say the disaster recovery solutions. Traditional solution available in the market. The very basic is local tape backups, or we can call it like the local backups. This graph is increasing this side in terms of the cost, and this side is increasing in time of the time. I must say the RTO. So as the technology is evolving, the cost is increasing, but the recovery time is decreasing. So if we need to restore my system at its previous or minimal functioning state in a very less amount of time, then I will have to spend more amount, a good cost for achieving this. So the graph is going something like this. If we are increasing, or we must say we are optimizing the system to reducing the RTO, as well as our cost is increasing. So I can say, we can conclude like RTO and the cost of the system, cost of the recovery and traditional system is something like is opposite, associated to each other. So whenever the time is decreasing, basically the recovery time is decreasing, the cost is increasing. So let us consider one by one. If we are taking the example of local tape backups, how it is working and what are the challenges in the system. So first is backup and restore. So generally we are having our production system, or we can call it like the production server, which is actually executing the operations, executing the services for the business, and it is, suppose it is associated on the wide area network on the internet. It is happening, it is providing the services to their clientele, and this is their a backup system where they are having some storage, where we are having some storage devices, we are having some storage media, where we can create the copies, where we can keep the copies of our actual server. If we are collecting the whole data, the whole operational data, the any kind of the data which is being utilized by the organization is being stored at the client server side, the physical server side, or we can call it the production server side, that can be backed up using some storage devices and can be recovered from that system. But it is having a challenge. What is the challenge? Just to make the copies every time of every data. As the new data is being added to the production server, then you will have to make the copies again and again. Manually you will have to make the copies in some storage devices. So what are the outcomes of the system? Slow RTO. Suppose if any disaster happened there, then the RTO would be very slow. Why? Because you need to recover the data from these additional storage devices, and might be these devices may not be physically available on that side. And additional risk is if these media is also available on the same site, in case of any fire or any physical disaster, these files may also can be destroyed in that disaster. So if they are not available that side, first you will have to bring them to that particular site, and then you will have to make it live by storing them again it is not the main problem is that whenever you are to recover from the disaster, and might be these media won't be working as per your expectations. This is the major faults, because these devices may not be utilized in so many months, so many years, so there is no guarantee of the, I must say, the recovery. So this is again a challenge. The same, if in case of any disaster the RPO and the RTO are high, the main focus is on the backups and the imaging of the servers. And hidden cost, like the data back into the usable state, as I already told you, because might be you are utilizing the data using some softwares, but your devices, your storage devices is containing the data only in the form of some databases, some files only. But how to get them, make it again the usable as the previously you were doing on the actual server, on the production server, that is a big challenge. Another challenge is to rebuild the server. Yes, because you are having only the storage devices which is having the data only, but not a physical server. So another solution, if we are going to have a copy, this is the example, these are the scenarios of the previous things already we were discussing using some storage devices. So now we are talking like if we have a copy, or I can say the mirror servers. Suppose this is your master server having an architecture of master and slave. You are having a master server or as a production server, and you are having a slave server as a disaster recovery or disaster a backup plan for the backup and the disaster recovery. You are having another server as a slave copy of this. So everything is happening here. You will have to mirror it to the slave. Means every transaction, every entry, which is every log which is coming to this server, which is happening to this server, you will have to replicate each and everything to the this server also as a backup server. So this is an ongoing process. Whenever anything, any small to small any operation is happening here, you will have to keep updated your slave. So in this case, yes, we had improved two things, like we have improved the RTO and the RPOs, because in case of any disaster, when this server is not available, the everything would be turned out to the this server, because this server is having the exact mirror copy of this actual server. So everything which is working on this server would be now functioning on this server, and meanwhile the RTO and the RPO recovery, I must say the disaster recovery, we would be able to establish a master server again. Then the whole process would be coming to that server, and this will behave like the previously backup server. So we solved the problem of RTO and RPO, but as we discussed, the cost is going very high, because there are the two things to maintain this duplication infrastructure. We will have to do everything double, like any component which is need to be installed in the server, we will have to make in the both server. So everything is going to be double, the power consumption is going to be double, the network the network supply, each and every resource is going to be duplicate, double. Management complexity, again, yes, if anything is happening on the production server, then it is the responsibility that must be replicated to the recovery server as well. So performance is increased, but price is very high. So what to do? These are the drawbacks of the traditional system. Ultimately, there are some other solutions also there, but again, the cost is going to be very high. As in the previous slides we had already seen, like we had discussed about the tape backups, online backups, there might be pilot lights, warm, standby, and some other solution, but you can see the price is going to be plus and plus. So what is the solution? Which must be the cost effective, as well as the performance must be guaranteed. So the solution is virtual disaster recovery. How it is functioning? Oh yes. These were the basically we considered the two strategy. First strategy was the backup, and the second strategy was the duplication of the server. So both are having some cons. The both problems solved in the case of virtualization. How it is working? Let us understand in a very quick manner. So this is your actual physical production servers on which your transaction or the operation are happening. So there used to be a host, I must say the virtual recovery host, which is making a virtual production server, the copy of this server on a virtual machine. So the same thing as the duplicate infrastructure, but the thing is we don't need to maintain or to implement or to, I must say, the install the same infrastructure in a duplicate way. This is maintained by a virtual recovery host, which is providing us the same infrastructure in a virtualized machine manner, in a virtual machine manner, and we need to pay the cost as per the uses basis, as per the resources basis, resource utilization basis, not the installation basis. So the cost problem is resolved of the system. Of what system? This duplication system. The cost and the complexity now maintained and the managed by the virtual recovery host. So the advantages are replicate workload into an offline virtual machine. So whatever is happening on the physical production server, that is being replicated to the virtual production server. And advantage is having one-click failover and flexible failback as well as one-click test restore. Test restore, we can anytime test and restore these servers to each other. Like we can any time we can test this server is working or not. Like in the case of in case of traditional plan, we just need to, in case of disaster only, we can check out the things are working out or not. But here we can anytime test and restore the things. These are the important things: failover and the failback. Failover is the ability to switch automatically and seamlessly to a reliable backup system. Like in case of any disaster, the automatic mechanism automatically which transfer to the virtual system. And the failback returns production to the original state. Failback means after the recovery from the disaster, just to make the whole system as previously it was working before the disaster. So this is a failback and this is failover. So ultimately these are the virtual machine solution or the virtualization support provided by the cloud. This is like a cloud and we are having some virtual recovery host there, virtual recovery host there, which is maintaining these actual servers, the physical production servers, using the virtual machine or the virtual production servers. So this is the solution provided by the cloud, which is cost effective and nearly zero RTO and the RPOs. So that's all for today. Thank you so much.